How's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. So this is not a video that I actually planned to do. It's not something that I thought I would have to do, but after thinking about it for 24 hours, I felt that I needed to get my thoughts out there about what happened for the last 24 hours. So if you ask me to summarize the problems with Celtic this season, the last 24 hours is a pretty good example of everything that went wrong with Celtic's season this year in terms of on the pitch and off the pitch and at board level for the club. So essentially, if you haven't seen this story, what happened was it was Scott Brown's last game at Celtic Park. The legend, the leader, the captain for the last number of years, multiple trophy winners, multiple treble winner, is playing his last game at Celtic Park. And it's a big moment for Celtic fans because they can't actually be there to give him the proper farewell that he deserves. Celtic Football Club allowed the fans into the stadium to put up tributes for Scott Brown, but instead they chose to take their moment and stand with Palestine. They erected a couple of Palestine flags in the safe standing zone in solidarity with what was happening in Palestine over the last week and a half to 2 weeks. Celtic Football Club responded to this by sending out a statement saying that they would be removing all the flags from that area and that they were disappointed the fans betrayed their trust in that they were letting them into the stadium in good faith that it would be all Scott Brown tributes that would be going into that. So I do want to talk about this, and I want to talk about why on the pitch it also summarises the season. This is a difficult issue to talk about. No matter what you say, you're always going to be clipped, you're going to be misquoted, you're going to be taken out of context. So I just want to make this clear. A couple of months ago I made a video about Glenn Kamara and the racist abuse that he received while playing in the Europa League. And I mentioned that I wanted to keep politics out of football, and I still stand by that. And although the Israeli-Palestinian situation is a political issue, I would have the posts and the flags and the statements in solidarity with Palestine in the same zone as anti-racism. I don't think it is any longer a political issue. If you are seeing video evidence of innocent children, women, and people in general being tossed out of their homes, being murdered in cold blood, being annexed, and basically being held in an open-air prison in their own country, that for me is not a political issue. That for me is a humanitarian issue, which leads me to Celtic and this solidarity movement that Celtic have had with Palestine for a long time now. It was never really an issue when the fans were there. The odd time Celtic might get a fine when they were in Europe. That is part and parcel with playing in Europe and the rules that they apply when you're playing in Europe. But this in particular really was a thorn in my foot because after everything that has happened over the last week, Celtic chose this moment to take a stand against political statements and had a go at the fans and said that they betrayed their trust doing this. Now, as a Celtic fan, I've always thought that Celtic stood for something. And I've always thought that Celtic stood for something good. And I've always thought that doing good was always part of the Celtic way. Of being a Celtic fan, you got behind these movements. If you felt strong enough about them, you got behind them. The fans were behind them. Be that homelessness, be that Palestine, be that whatever cause that you feel is strong. If it's on a humanitarian basis, that Celtic would stand behind you. And Celtic, for me, are the ones that betrayed the trust here. Because the disconnect between the PR department of Celtic Football Club, the board, and the fans is completely shattered, and they're going in completely different directions. And what you find now is there was supposed to be a fan media conference with Scott Brown today, and it was boycotted by the Cynic, and it was boycotted by a couple of other Celtic fan media because of this situation, because they didn't feel right to say that, you know, the board betrayed their trust last night, but they're going to hop on this. And another thing that comes from this is the fact that in the Celtic statement, they reference the fact that Celtic fans took advantage of Scott Brown's last game in charge to make this political statement when Celtic were selling Scott Brown merchandise the same night. So they were the ones trying to take advantage of it, not the people who made the political statement. It was a shambles, an absolute shambles. And again, another point of this is the PR disaster that this causes, because this was the easiest open goal Celtic have had all year. Scott Brown's last game in Celtic Park. It was an easy win for them to win over the fans. And then they went and did this. And now the gap is even bigger when you're talking about the relationship of the fans to the board, to the club in general. And season ticket renewal is right around the corner. Celtic Football Club are in dire need of some fans coming in, and they're going to need to make a serious apology to some of the fans in Celtic who are season ticket holders and some who aren't, and people who are going to be cancelling their season ticket because of everything that they've done this year. And this was boiling point for me. I thought it was an absolutely ludicrous decision. Let's talk about the on-field and why I think it summarised Celtic's season. So, I mean, it was a good win, but one of the reasons that I think this summarises Celtic season is Dembele and how good he was in that game. Let's face it, for example, this was Scott Brown's last game in Celtic Park. It was probably Christopher Ayers. It was probably Odsonne Edouards. Might be a couple of other players who are playing their last game in Celtic Park. But potentially Dembele, if the rumours are to be believed, this was his last game in Celtic Park as well. And, I mean, he was fantastic. Why was he not playing all season? Why was he not getting chances on the pitch? And why was he not even being used as a sub when Lee Griffiths, who apparently is not getting his contract renewed, is still getting substitute appearances? Why was he not playing all year? And it falls into the same category as David Turnbull, who was actually named Player of the Year. David Turnbull didn't get a game until, was it late December? Early December? Either way, it was halfway through the season. David Turnbull was still not in the team, and you're wondering why on earth was he not playing until now? And you're thinking the same about Dembele. It's the second last game of the season. And he finally gets a first team appearance. It amazes me how Celtic have functioned for this long and been making these decisions. It's unbelievable. On the pitch as well, Eddie Howe looks like he is officially going to be named at some point this week. He's still not named as a manager. They're probably just waiting until the end of the season. He's probably going to get the job when I upload this video, so I'm going to need to delete it. But I just felt that I had to come on and say my piece about the last 24 hours, because for me, Celtic betrayed a trust between the supporters and what the club is supposed to stand for yesterday, because I thought Celtic was a club that stood for the right side, whether it is anti-racism, whether it is humanitarian issues, homelessness issues, on things that are going on in Scotland and beyond. I thought Celtic were the side that were supposed to stand for these issues no matter what, and they absolutely destroyed a lot of trust between the Celtic fans and the board this week. Let me know in the comments below. Again, I've said my piece. If you want to give me abuse, you can give me abuse below, but I don't think that that's going to solve anything. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you're a season ticket holder, if you're going to renew your season ticket at the end of the year. How are you feeling about the relationship between the board and the fans right now? We'll chat to you later.